Alan Parr is someone I've covered on the channel a few times, most of the time because he makes a decent bit of homophobic content while trying to not be, quote, hateful. He's the type of Christian who will not outright say that a gay person deserves to be stoned to death, but he will say that they deserve to burn in hell, just not in so many words. It's more the end result of what he ends up believing. And to him, this is a just thing. This is a good thing. This is fine. Well, he's also the type of person that says that if you are a homosexual and that is something that you cannot control, you should at least not live a, quote, homosexual lifestyle. First of all, whatever the hell a homosexual lifestyle even means. Secondly, this basically means that you're not allowed to fall in love. But let's go ahead and see what he has to say. Let's go ahead and see what wisdom Alan Parr has to give to us today.
Recently, somebody on my Instagram sent me this question. They said, "Greetings, Mr. Parr. I really need some advice. I'm not sure if you respond to messages, but I have to ask. I am a homosexual married woman. As of a few weeks ago, God has really began speaking to me. He compelled me to stop my practices involving New Age methods. He has really been showing me his truth and what I'm really up against." Now, she goes...
Can we go ahead and point out that in that little letter right there, the truth and what you're really up against are not described, as is so often the case.
Goes on and on to say some other things, but then she goes on to say this. "Here is the dilemma. I'm married to a woman who believes she's a good person and doesn't view herself as a sinner. I've expressed to my wife, what I want as far as walking according to God's word and will for me, and how that means we cannot continue down this path. However, she's also saying that she now understands we need to be divorced, and she wants to further her walk too, but she doesn't want me out of her life. And essentially, I want her to experience her promise. I also don't wish to sacrifice mine." So this brings up a very good question. And in order to answer this question, what I want to do is I want to break this down into 3 different scenarios.
Okay, before you do that, can I point out that this is literally the end result of Christian propaganda pushing people apart from one another? Like, at the end of the day, that is exactly what is happening here. Is somebody has been so thoroughly indoctrinated that they believe that they need to leave their significant other, and then their significant other, from the way it's being worded here, we're only getting one series of events here, we're only getting one perspective, but what it seems here is that her wife is understanding that, oh, we are going in 2 very different directions, and yours is maybe not the most healthy. Maybe we need to get a divorce. This is sad, honestly, but let's go ahead and see what Alan has to say about it. My take is that it's sad when people let their religion get in the way of their happiness and their relationships, but let's see what Alan has for us.
Scenario number 1 is that you and your same-sex partner got married, so you're in a gay marriage, but one of you or both of you, as is this situation, starts to feel conviction because you have a relationship with Christ, and so therefore you know this isn't what you should have done, or you get saved while you're in this gay marriage, and God begins to show you that you need to get out. The question is,
can we just take a minute to think about how disgusting that is as a concept? You being yourself, naturally being yourself, harming nobody, merely offends God, and that is terrible, according to them. Just being you, more importantly, the way God made you, is offensive to him, so you've got to stop. That's gross.
If I know that God hates divorce, according to Malachi 2:16, should I actually get a divorce from my same-sex spouse. The second scenario that I want to look at is you and your opposite sex partner got married, so you're in a heterosexual marriage, but then at some point in the marriage, your partner starts to have feelings or experience same-sex attraction, and now you're wondering whether or not you are able to get out of that marriage and get a divorce, because if they're attracted to somebody of the same sex, then that means they'll never be able to be attracted to me, and therefore...
What? Alan! Alan, are you stupid? Alan! Do bi people not exist to you? Do pan people not exist to you? Polysexual people just not exist to you? For that fucking matter, polyamorous people not exist for you. What? How is it? What? No, why? Alan, please, no! Why would you even... Okay. Look. As someone, okay, who's dating someone else who is attracted to more than a single gender, the mere fact that they can be attracted to a woman or an NB does not suddenly mean that they cannot be attracted to me too. I'm gonna ram my head into a wall. I'm going to physically harm myself, and it will be less painful than what I had to hear from Alan.
Where does that leave me in the process?
In pain! That's where it leaves me, in pain!
And then the third scenario is you and your opposite sex partner are in a heterosexual marriage, and then one of them actually acts out on their same-sex attraction and has an affair. What are my options there?
So in that scenario, your partner's cheated on you. And whatever advice would functionally exist for a partner cheating on you needs to be applied here. Now, hold on, though, because the way you've worded this does not imply an affair specifically. Alan, in scenario 3, you said that you and your opposite sex heterosexual partner get married, and then your partner is now acting out on their same-sex attraction. So wait a minute. What happens if I am with Raz in this scenario, and Raz tells me that she is attracted to someone else, and me, being poly, go, oh, cool, that's neat. Are you guys going to go on a date, or have you told them, or what have you? That's functionally where that conversation starts for me, right? It literally just goes, oh, okay, well, cool. Do you want money for snacks? Like, what? This scenario here ignores the existence of poly people, because there's nothing in that wording that implies that there's an affair.
Now, for some of you, this might be like, this question doesn't really apply to me at all, but maybe you know somebody that is going through this in some way, because as our media is justifying and glorifying and normalizing same-sex attraction through movies, through TV, through media.
Because there's nothing wrong with it. For Ellen, you literally just showed a woman existing as a lesbian. Every scenario you threw up before was somebody in a TV show. Ellen's actually a lesbian. That's not normalization in the media. That's just a fucking lesbian being on a camera. The end result of that may normalize things, but that's not the same thing as having fictional characters.
It's becoming more and more popular for people to just simply be curious and want to actually experiment on their feelings towards somebody of the same sex.
Well, yeah, think about it though. What is the harm in that? Imagine you're 50 years old. You've told yourself that you're heterosexual your entire life. And then at 50 years old, you finally come to terms with the fact that maybe, just maybe, you are comfortable with sex with other people. You are comfortable with sex with people of the same gender as you, or even people who are non-binary. And through that, you realize that when you're 50. There's only so many sexual encounters you're going to be able to have from that point forward. And at that point, you may even tell yourself that it's not worth it to even try. You literally are going to never experience this other side of yourself. Whereas if you experiment earlier, if you understand earlier who you are, how you function, you can go into a relationship being able to be honest about that side of yourself. If you go into a relationship as a heterosexual, cis person who is completely mono, right? And then throughout the course of your relationship, you develop same-sex attraction with somebody else, you start to develop romantic feelings for somebody else, but your romantic feelings for your partner don't diminish, and the idea of your partner being with somebody else doesn't harm you. You actually start to develop mini bursts of compersion. You've transformed in this relationship, and I can say from experience, going into a relationship as a polyship is a very different beast from trying to convert a monogamous relationship into a polyamorous relationship. Being able to be honest about these things from the get-go, and having had the ability to explore them from the beginning, is an immense boon in having an incredibly healthy relationship as an adult. Shoving these things down because you consider them sins, because some god who created you that way said that these things offended him, does not create a healthy person. And it means that you end up either not knowing who you are when you go into one of these relationships, or you end up having to live a lie in one of these relationships. None of that is healthy.
So that was a long intro, and that's what we're going to talk about today on The Beat. Hey, my friend, welcome back to The Beat. My name is Alan Parr. Thank you so much for tuning in. If this is your first time here, it's a pleasure. Hey, if you want to know the entire story of the Bible, I've got a free ebook. Just simply click the link in the description box below. And if you enjoy this video, consider subscribing and hit that little bell notification so that you'll be notified every time a Beat video drops. Okay, scenario number one, you're in a gay marriage, but you're starting to have conviction that you need to get a divorce, but you're wondering if that's possible because you know God hates divorce.
It's possible. Like, seriously, you've already... Just from a pragmatic standpoint, if all sins are created equal, you've already done a sin. You literally can either go +1 sin and -1 sin by being +1 sin in the divorce and -1 sin in the homosexual relationship. Just if I were speaking from the position of a pragmatic Christian and I viewed all sins as equal, then my answer to this would be, yeah, no, you reached sin equilibrium. But that's the concept of sin is stupid. Let's continue.
So the answer to this is yes, you can and should get a divorce, and here's the reason why.
Because Alan is a homophobe. That is the reason. Whatever reason he tries to give, whatever justification he gives, does not matter. The underlying reason is that Alan is a homophobe. That's it. That's it.
God, who instituted marriage at creation, instituted it as a union between one man and one woman.
When did he institute marriage? Because I've heard other Christians try to say that it was in the Garden of Eden. I don't remember that.
And so therefore, anything outside of one man marrying one woman is not considered a legitimate marriage in the eyes of God.
Oh, okay, so his position here is not going to be that, well, it is a sin to divorce, but it was already a sin for you to be in a gay relationship, so, you know, have at it. No. His position is that the divorce is not really a divorce, so it's not really a sin, because the marriage wasn't really a marriage. Why? Why are Alan Parr? Why are Alan Parr? That is the question for today. I am so tempted to just make that the thumbnail. Why are Alan Parr? Why are this man?
It might be a legal marriage in the eyes of our country and our government.
I like how he puts quotations on legal. Bro, let's talk about slavery for a minute. Just a hot fucking minute. You can put legal in quotation marks, but slavery's, quote, illegal in America, but perfectly fine by the Bible standards.
But it is not a legitimate marriage in God's sight. God never ordained that particular marriage, and so therefore, in God's sight, you are not married to your same-sex partner, and therefore...
not committing a sin. Hold on, Alan. Hold on a fucking second. Hold on. If the marriage is not legitimate in God's eyes, if you're not technically in a gay marriage, then are you technically sinning? If the marriage isn't real, how is the sin real?
You should go through the legal process of legitimizing the severance of this relationship so that you can experience healing and restoration and move forward in the things of God. So yes, God does hate divorce, but only within the context of how he instituted marriage, which is between one man and one woman.
Well, if the legal marriage isn't something that God cares about, if that's not a real marriage, then why should they have to take any of your advice anyway? Like, it's not a legitimate marriage, so it's no longer in God's jurisdiction. Render unto Caesar, fuck shit.
Once again, anything outside of that is not considered a marriage to begin with. Okay, scenario number 2, you are married to your opposite sex partner. You guys are happy, you're in love, you get married, and then at some point you discover, or your spouse confesses to you, that they're starting to have attractions for somebody of the same sex, or maybe you catch them a text message or email, or something happens and you start to realize that they're having attraction for somebody of the same sex. What do you do in that situation?
Can I go ahead and answer this question, Alan? Thanks, bud. Okay, here's what you do in that situation, plain and simple. Ask them if they want to pursue those attractions. Ask them if they would like to pursue that, and then figure out if there's a healthy way that you and your partner can pursue it, because if not, then you determine what's going on with your relationship. In some scenarios, that question ends up in, hey, if you want to pursue this, that's fine, but I can't handle you being with another person, so maybe this is where we go our separate ways. And then you sever there on that point. Yeah, it's gonna hurt, but if your existence in that relationship is functionally holding somebody back from being happy, then that might be a pain that you have to deal with. Alternatively, if you find out that you are okay with them being with somebody else, they just want to experiment sexually, you can try something like swinging, as an example, where you actually have one-night stands with other couples, and all of you are together in a controlled environment, and everybody is consenting to anything that they do. That is an option you have to explore that, where you can explore your sexuality in a safe way without breaking off your relationship. Another option you have is potentially going around the route of polyamory. Hey, you want to explore these things? That's perfectly fine. Can we both explore these, and can we put healthy boundaries for ourselves so that we can actually do this? There are a lot of healthy ways you can handle this. And they don't all end in whatever advice he's gonna give. But let's go ahead and see what advice he will give.
Well, unfortunately, as painful as that is, and I wouldn't wish this, my friend, on anyone at all, because this can be unbelievably painful to come to this realization, but...
Fellas, is it unbelievably painful to find out that your partner is attracted to other people too? Let's just think about it. Okay, what is functionally the difference between I found out that my partner is attracted to, say, an actor on a screen, and my partner is attracted to somebody of the same sex? If that person's a person in every scenario, there's really no difference between these things. And I'm gonna let you know right now, if you think that your partner is not sexually attracted to somebody else, whether it be an actor or a character or, you know, a real person, it doesn't matter. There's at least someone who they are probably attracted to as well, if they have the capacity, assuming that they are not a libidoless ace at that point, right? coming to terms with that is just a healthy thing. It's a very high mark of insecurity to freak out about the fact that your partner might supposedly be attracted to literally anyone else.
There is unfortunately no ground biblically in the Bible that allows or permits you to get divorced and still be in God's perfect will simply because your spouse is having feelings for somebody or experiencing attraction for somebody of the same sex, any more than if your spouse was experiencing attraction for somebody of the opposite sex. And
at least he recognizes there's no difference here. But like, okay, so there's another issue here though at hand. The way Alan puts it is that there's no reason that somebody should be able to get a divorce in this situation. I'm gonna say right now, making it to where you can't get a divorce is just opening things up for abuse. It's just opening up a world and a scenario where somebody can say, no, they're legally bound to you, and then they can hurt you.
And the reason why I personally believe that God instituted it that way is because if it were that easy to get out of the marriage, then people all over the world would just simply be trying to prove that their spouse is having some sort of attraction, whether it's same sex or opposite sex. And if they're already looking for a reason to get out of that marriage.
Wait, hold on. You said that all people around the world would have to do that. You're conflating things, Alan. All people around the world are not held by biblical law. They have different religions. There are people who hold to the tenets of Islam. There are people who hold to Hindu tenets. There are people who are Buddhists. Not everybody is bound by the same religious law that you are. Secondly, more importantly, even if they were all functionally from the same religion, we're talking about legal things right now. We're talking about the law in a country. That law, according to your Bible, was passed down by God. Yet the Bible clearly says that government institutions are laid there by the will of God. And then as far as taxation goes, it says render unto Caesar. So, Alan, I don't think this is a good point. I mean, nothing you've said is a good point. But this just doesn't feel like it's on the right track. You seem to be assuming that everybody is a Christian axiomatically, and therefore has to follow God's law. Which, don't get me wrong, back when I was a Christian, I might have agreed with.
Then they now have the excuse that they need in order to divorce their spouse.
This is why you should just let people divorce if they want to divorce. Like, it's that simple. If people don't want to be in a relationship with each other anymore, then just fucking let them. Who does it hurt? Does it hurt God? Then if it hurts God, then more people should get divorced, because if a divorce hurts God, then we can fucking make God bleed. And if he can bleed, is he God? We'll make God bleed with divorce paperwork.
God always wants us to look for ways and reasons why we can stay in the marriage and make the marriage work, rather than looking for loopholes in the Word of God and just looking for reasons to try to get out. Now, if your spouse continues to experience same-sex attraction, it very well may be that they're going to enter into scenario number 3, where they're not just experiencing same-sex attraction, it's getting so strong on them that they actually act out on that attraction and engage in an affair with somebody of the same sex. And so now the question is, what options do you have in this particular situation? Well, because there would be physical adultery happening here, where your spouse is actually in a physical relationship with somebody from the same sex, then, my friend, Jesus does give us a biblical ground for divorce in situations where there is physical adultery allowed.
So, wait, hold on. Your position before was that if everybody just had to prove attraction, or just had to say that my spouse is attracted to somebody else, then we can get a divorce. That's a bad thing. So, is it not a worse thing that now a partner, if they want a divorce, might have to fabricate a smear campaign against their partner and argue that they cheated on them. Is that not a worse scenario? Is that not a more dystopian view of this?
And so because of that, you now have the option, but it isn't mandatory. You're not required to, you're not commanded to, but you have the option now to get out of that marriage, and you would be in God's will for your life if you were to sever that marriage and get a divorce, because this partner of yours has broken the marriage covenant that you all established whenever you got married.
Unless, of course, your marriage covenant involved polyamory as well. But, you know, ignore that. Ignore that completely. But I think the real fundamental problem here isn't just all the technicalities and the semantics involved. I think the real problem here that needs to be addressed is that, Alan, isn't it just so wonderful that God at least gave you a handful of scenarios where you can exercise your own authority and own autonomy? Isn't it so wonderful that your slave master let you have a piece of bread? That's what it sounds like to me. You get to argue that it's a good thing that your God gave you some options, even though the options suck. But at least he gave them to you. Isn't that so great? Isn't that wonderful, Alan? Isn't that just 10 out of 10? No, it's not. Your God's a slave master and abusive asshole. Stop it.
So my hope is that you watching this video will never ever find yourself in any of these three scenarios, but you never know. You might find yourself in one of these situations, or you may know somebody who is in these situations, or you may be somebody right now who is watching this video and you know in your heart that even though you're in a same-sex relationship, and you may have even gotten into a same-sex marriage, you know that it's not God's will. You know that God has not designed you to be with somebody of the same sex.
Bullshit. Don't even try. Don't even. Look, Alan, if you want a good argument against this particular scenario, if you want a good argument against this, if you truly think that we were not designed in your eyes to have relations with the same sex as well as opposite sex, then I implore you, Alan, I implore you, please go to ddlgplayground.com. Use my coupon code, Suris. You'll get 10% off of anything in the store. I want you to get the biggest dildo. And I want you to cram it right up against your prostate, okay? And when it feels good, as is part of God's design, you need to tell me why the fuck it feels good. Why it felt fine for you to have, essentially, a dick up there, Alan. Could it possibly be God's design? Could it? I don't know, Alan! Go to DDLG Playground and find out!
But you're fighting that conviction, you're wrestling with it in your heart, and you don't want to give up the relationship that you have with this person. My friend, God has something so much better for you, which is his peace and his favor and his blessings on your life if you were to be courageous enough to sever that relationship, not try to stick around and be friends with this person and have this person in your life, but to simply walk away, as difficult as it may be.
Isn't that so much worse, though? Like, it's not just the divorce. It's also that you need to shun this person. Can you think of any other situation in which shunning would be praxis? Oh, I don't know. Maybe a cult? Alan, why would you do that? Why would you do that? Alan, I want to ask who hurt you, but in the same way, I don't think I care. Because the end result is we have Alan Parr, the homophobic bigot. And it doesn't matter what happened in your past that got you here. Though, I do think that I think this might be perfect for the thumbnail. We've got it. We have it now. Oh boy. The only bits that will be left in this video are going to be him plugging stuff for his channel, so I'm not too terribly worried about showing those. But what did you guys think of Alan Parr's arguments where homosexual marriage is concerned? What do you think the end result of any of that is? Do you think that he's on the right track? Do you think that he's being a good person here? Or do you think, like I do here, that he's just being a homophobic bigot and he's caught in a time that no longer exists? He's very temporally displaced. What do you guys think? And with all that said, if you enjoyed the video, please leave a like, please subscribe if you haven't already, check out the description below to see if there's any way in which you'd like to support the channel, and as always everyone, insert end of video tagline here.